Hey, you guys ever watch 70s TV shows from the 70s?
Not,
Not really.
no.
This doesn't ring a bell like welcome back, welcome back. Welcome back, Cotter. You guys never watched it? No. Except that's Cotter was the teacher. Welcome back to you guys. So Vincent, I saw you had responded to email. I haven't had a chance to look at it, reply yet, but I will. And but you can hang out immediately after and ask me questions if you want.
Okay.
How are y'all? You doing okay? Okay. Um, I'm not sure if this is going to be the entire group, but I'm thinking maybe we just proceed from here. Maybe more will join us, maybe not. Um, but how did everybody do on the poster project? Any questions about that?
It was kind of confusing for me, but I think I did okay for the most part. I don't know if I did exactly what it was supposed to,
Uh,
because it was kind of tough to combine like every single thing, like from the parties, like into the poster. So I just put like a couple things. So
yeah. Did you guys think it was important to include every single thing? No, no, he
I,
said,
Personally, I didn't.
but, sorry, go ahead.
I just said personally, I didn't. I just incorporated because I thought the idea was to create a poster that replicated like propaganda or whatever. So I just chose like the ones that relied on emotion the heaviest. That's just what I
exactly.
did.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. The idea was to create a propaganda poster. So, so I'm trying to think of the best way for us to go about this. How about this? Why don't I ask everybody? Why don't I make everybody a co-host if I can do that, and ask you all to maybe share your poster, and if you can pull it up, like share your screen, we'll go around, share your poster and explain, and then share your favorite, your choice, and explain that. Okay. So let me see here. Going to
I'm on my cell phone, so I would have to I guess turn my camera towards my laptop.
maybe with you, Vincent, you can give me directions to find the we'll go one by one, but you just give me directions to where to find the posters on the forum. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Wait, what?
Like, well, I'll share the screen. You just tell me which ones to pull up, yours and which other one. Okay.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to deal with it. Um, all right. So now I've made, I think, everybody a co-host. So, um, Luna, I'm just going around clockwise on the boxes. You're first on the list here. So
All
you want
right.
to share, or do you want to wait because you were a little confused about that? See what other people share.
Well, I mean, I'm already done with mine, so I can just go ahead and show it. So desktop. How's this? Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So this is kind of what I did. So I was part of the Purple Party for Oahu.
Yeah.
Um, I took the slogans that were part of the from the summary that I read over. So it was one people, one Reich, and one Firebrain. And
Hmm.
then here I kind of just put some of the main like key points about the party. So it was to reorganize society to represent the people, break hold of Minoan capitalism, impose high tariffs against foreign, and unify all Oaxunians and expand territory.
Okay. And what were your, if you had to make the argument, what were your concepts of propaganda that you were trying to execute with that poster? What was the underlying ideas?
I think some of the underlying ideas from this was just kind of like to break apart from the mold of, I think, because well, I think the party was the Green Party, so it was just kind of trying to separate from them and their ideas.
So did you, if I were to ask you, let me ask you this in two simple questions, okay? How would you explain or define effective propaganda? And how is that present in your poster design?
Wait, you cut up. How would I describe the what propaganda?
How would you explain or define effective propaganda? And how is that reflected in your poster design?
I think how I would describe effective propaganda is that if enough people are hearing the message and getting it across, and they're able to relay it to other people, I think that would be an example of effective propaganda, because it's something that they themselves could believe in also, and it's something that it's a certain cause that they can get behind and just demonstrate to other people. And I think here, like, especially with the three slogans that I have right here with one people, one Reich, and one Firebrain, I think that's definitely kind of more like the slogan for our parties. And I think that's definitely something that many people are going to attach to, because when you look at the poster itself, obviously you have like the title right there, but then you also have like the slogan right here. So that's going to like draw people more into this area and see the slogan. And it shows that we're like one united.
Right. And then what would you say about what you okay. Well, what was your favorite? What did you
My
choose
favorite,
to vote?
my favorite what?
Your favorite poster among the other students?
Oh, I didn't get a chance to see those.
Well, is that forum disappeared now for you guys? I think I had it close at 2 p.m.
Because I thought we were going to present them on here, and then we would talk about them in the forum.
Actually, I think it should still be open, right? Isn't it? Is it? Oh my God, somebody's a scholar. Should be the top one, I think.
No. Yeah, no, it's gone now.
What the hell? Why isn't it showing up under your forums? Oh, because of the deadline. Okay.
Yeah, because I was thinking we would look at the posters here and then talk about it on the forum.
All right. Well, I will extend this till 5.
All right.
Yeah. But pay close attention to the deadlines, y'all, because otherwise this gets difficult. Hold on. So I want to make an announcement about the grades. I am, as you can see, you guys, I'm still in the process of putting them in. But when I entered people's, now I have to put in, I should say a caveat, which is that when I entered in people's grade for, well, the caveat is that that I'm still entering new assignment topics. So as I enter in the new assignments that you guys completed, like you completed the Czechology assignment, you completed the the debate one, you know, all these different ones that you guys did. There's actually a number of them once you add it all up, okay? But when I went in the other day and I entered in who had done the I'm vain assignment and who had not, and I gave the people who had not a 0, the average in the class dropped from an A to a D. So I am entering in these other assignments and that will mitigate it. But the homework assignments are really important. And the I'm vain assignment, which I've extended the deadline on along with everything else until before Thanksgiving, is really important. Not just as a homework assignment, but also because it's the first step in learning how to prepare for the final. So I'm referring to the deconstruction workbook, with it's just like a handful of assignments. So and the other thing that you should know about that is that on Zoom on Thursday, I will go over that. Now, I will create a video of that and I will post that on Alima as I will with this. But you should, be aware that that's also going to be really important in terms of learning how to correctly apply like the methods for news literacy. Okay. So I was looking at the discussions, and there's one thing that now that I have you guys' attention, we're all on Zoom together. I want to just make really clear at the outset, though, right? And that's so Vincent, like when you were talking about how to distinguish what's true and what's not true when you encounter it on the internet, do you remember what you wrote, like about how you basically do it?
No, I don't remember what I wrote. What did I write?
You said basically the way I do it is I look for the most reliable sources, but by sources you meant the news outlets that you rely on,
Right.
right? So like what's a news outlet that you don't trust, just so that I'm not pulling examples out of my butt? Fox?
I get always, well, not even Fox, because I don't know, my channel is just always on CNN, so that's like pretty much like just what I like as far as news. I really don't even go to like local news or whatever. So
Right.
I wouldn't be able to tell you what like I wouldn't even be able to answer your question because I don't really look at like Fox News until like now, till I started the class or when we had like that first assignment as far as the left and right and center.
Right. Okay. Well, anyway, my point is stop doing that. I mean, at least you can do that, but don't use that as your rule of thumb for what's true and what's not true. Because like this is one of the most important, this has got to be a starting point. And what you said, I don't mean to pick on you, because what you say is so common, right? So many people are like, yeah, I judge what's true and not by like the source, by which they don't mean the source. They mean the news outlet that provided a story to them, right? Which, okay, that's a lot of times what we mean by the source, quote unquote, but there's another meaning to that word. So maybe let's not use that here, right? Why, let me ask you though, why would I say don't do that? Don't rely on like, I trust news outlet A, I don't trust news outlet B. That's how I distinguish what's true and what's not true.
Because of the bias, right?
Well, because let's say you watch CNN all the time and someone else watches Fox all the time. Now you disagree about something that's important to you, like the pandemic or Black Lives Matter, or something like that, but you don't share the same facts, do you? Because what's true to them is Fox. What's true
Right.
to you, and they'll say if it's on CNN, I don't believe it because it's on CNN.
Right.
And you say if it's on CNN, I believe it. If it's on one of these other sites, I'm not sure.
Right.
You know,
So it's like they only give out certain information or whatever, or news.
well, I mean, it's like what we're doing is without thinking about it. This is where news literacy comes in. Our knowledge of how to actually read information, versus like looking at a piece of paper with words on it, not knowing how to read it, versus knowing how to be news literate, right? Literacy. What we're doing without thinking about it is we're treating news and information like we're at the shopping mall and we're going information shopping. And we trust Nike, we don't trust this other brand. Okay. And we can't sift through what's true and not true that way. There's got to be a better way to do it, because otherwise you're going to go for the Nike brand, they're going to go for the Adidas brand, and then that's it. There's no dialogue. There's no, you know what I'm saying? And they're going to say that they're just, if the only reason why you're trusting is because it's from Nike, you know, then they're just as justified to say, well, I don't trust that. My brand is Adidas. And so if you're trying to get on the same page as facts, that's going to quickly be problematic. There's got to be a more critical way of distinguishing what's true and what's factual and what's not facts, or else we're never going to have the same shared set of facts. So that's where all these techniques that I'm teaching you all come in. You know, like reading laterally means you read several sources to see not just what different brands are saying, but different journalists who have made a different effort at getting at the truth, right? Who have unearthed different information than the other guy, regardless of what their bias may or may not be, right? And then another thing you do is you critical thinking. So we talked about this with the Hunter Biden thing, and how just a certain level of clear common sense sometimes makes a huge difference. And we can return to that later today. But the third thing is I'm vain. And the other is this thing about opening the freezer. Okay. And all that's on the I'm vain lesson. So what I'm going to say is, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack, but I did want to make this important announcement, right? We will do this on Zoom on Thursday. I will post the video for it, but it will help you all if in between now and Thursday, you have the time to review those lessons from that week and take a shot at the workbook, because I put this up for that week as a preliminary effort to starting to get us ready for the final exam. And I can't, unless I break my own grading rules, I can't grade it unless you guys complete it and turn it in. Okay. Because if I put all zeros for you guys, the whole grading system falls apart. So the grading system relies on you guys turning these in. And it's true that I didn't have all the assignments up when I entered those zeros, but I'm still concerned, even if I enter all of them, those assignments are so important that just getting them done is really affecting the whole balance of the grade. And I'll work with it if it's way off. I'm not gonna, make it messed up, but I also want you guys to have an accurate grade right now, right? And so I can't give you that unless enough of this stuff is together. Does anyone have any questions about that or concerns about that at this point?
So if we did have a late assignment, would you prefer us to just turn it in with the newest assignment so it's not like all over the place?
Well, did you see my email from Sunday? No, I sent you all a very important email about your grades. So you need to look at that. Basically, I'm asking you to get all your missing work in by the day before Thanksgiving to be caught up in the class. I'm not assigning anything further until you guys are caught up. So, and I'm as quickly as possible, I'm updating everybody's grade book. So keep checking your grade book, okay? For missing assignments and for what you've turned in and what you haven't. But I should have that up. That's all I'm working on right now. So I should have that up by tomorrow for your discussion forums, for your quizzes, for your homework assignments. But I would like to just say, hey, anything you guys turn in, this is a free zone. Everybody's free to just get it in and you'll get the credit. But then I think that would be unfair to the people who met the deadlines with the stuff. So I'm giving pretty generous, I think, allowances for late assignments, but I can't give 100%. Okay, I can give like 85%, but I can't give like 80. I can't give 100%. Does that seem fair to you all? Okay, so you'll still do very well in the class as long as you turn in all your missing work. Just make sure it's all in there. You guys should have a clear sense even before I get you your complete grades up on Gradebook. But when I do, I'll send everyone an announcement. And my plan is to email everybody in the class individually about what you have and what you're missing and what you should redo. Okay, but that's going to take a little bit more time. All right, so so Luna, can you now see the poster project up there?
Right. Yep.
Okay, so look that over and vote. You actually have now until the day before Thanksgiving, but try and get
Right.
up there by the end of the day. It just means voting and putting your own thing up, voting and everything else.
Right.
Uh, Vincent, let me. Why don't I pull up the forum and you tell me where to go? Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to go jump on here. You guys all see my screen?
It's the 7th one down.
Okay. I hope I was that fair, Vincent? I didn't mean to pick on you with your answer about that, but I just thought it was a worthwhile discussion about the news sources and news outlets.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is
I don't
your
Never mind. Oh, sorry.
okay. And what it ended up being your idea of effective propaganda, and were you able to execute that in your poster?
Is my mic? Oh, okay. Well, as far as my poster, I wanted to include the things that I read as far as the Green Party in the article, and looking at other people's. I wanted my poster to be quick and short to the point, like as well.
Yeah.
As far as the, sorry, let me pull. Shoot. Sorry. Now, I guess that was what I was going to ask you, because I guess I was kind of lost. Is like Luna.
Luna's
Um,
question.
for my poster, I was looking at everyone else's poster,
Yeah.
like even made mine's, and I was kind of like basically going off theirs, but wasn't going off theirs, and most of them were like just pretty much basically like, I guess, making it like short and simple, but like also like, I guess not like picking on the red and the purple party of Oahu.
Yeah.
Like for the poster that I chose, which was, sorry, let me go to her name.
He said the naughty reds. I like that. You want to show
But
me
see,
which one you
in
chose?
another poster, in another poster, I seen where I forgot who it was. I don't know if it was Mackenzie or I don't know, but she had the green stab the purple in the back. And I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't want so I was like, well, maybe that's kind of like what I was. So I was like,
Who did that?
Oh, that was
basically,
Libby, I think.
Well, Libby is extremely smart and literate.
yeah,
I
I was
wonder
basically,
if you got, because that is not a random image. Okay. The stab in the back. How many of
yeah,
you guys have been reading the news recently?
somewhat.
Okay, we'll get back to that. Why don't we get back to that at the end? Somebody remind me when we're done going through everybody. Let's get back to the stab in the back. Okay. One of you guys can Google it. Okay. It would be stabbed in the back. And put it in quotes and put it in Google. Okay, so go ahead, Vincent. What were you saying? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, the poster that I chose or that I liked was Ashira,
Okay, hold on.
her poster. But the poster that I was talking about,
So you want me to pull this up? And you want us to look at? So
No,
this is the
not
one you chose.
no, not that one. What's her name? Ashira.
Oh, okay, hold on. Not Ashiro. Um, she goes by Ali, right?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. So yeah, her name's Ashira, but she likes to be called Ali.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So you went with this one. You went green, Vincent, with your choice of favorite poster.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to stick with my team, so.
You're not supposed to do that.
Oh, we wasn't supposed to do that.
No. Where do you guys get these
That's like-
instructions?
Oh well, then I picked the one where she shot her in the back. I changed my
Oh
mind.
yeah. So the opposite one. That's hilarious. All right, hold on. So this would be your. So you can change it now. If you can still give a shout out to Ali, but
Okay.
you can change it now because I reopened the assignment. Okay, so that I get the vote right. And
No,
what
I see. I didn't
would
post nothing either because I thought we were like doing it in the chat, like in the Zoom. So I didn't like comment on it, but I will.
Where's Libby's? Oh, there she is. So you like this one?
Yeah, I like that one.
And that is, Libby is extremely smart, and we'll talk about why. Libby went beyond, she went well beyond the what I gave you guys into the actual history and into the actual details of the history without being told. So, talk to Libby when you guys are preparing for your final or whatever. Be her buddy because she obviously knows her stuff. Okay. Nobody knows about this yet. Have you guys looked up maybe stabbed in the back myth?
Oh, let me see.
Okay, so I can see why good taste there. I like both of your choices, Vincent, but I think you're right about the stabbed in the back.
Conspiracy theory. Widely believed in right-wing circles in Germany after 1918.
Yeah. How about try this? Stabbed in the myth, and so open a new tab and do stabbed in the back in quotes, or stab in the back. Maybe give it either one, but both in quotes. And Trump and election. Now, having said that, you guys realize I came up with this assignment. Actually, this assignment was originally developed in the 80s, but I've been using this assignment for like 8 years. So I did not Google stabbed in the back and Trump and election when I gave you this assignment. But I think you'll find something very interesting if you do. You can go ahead and Google it, but we'll keep going as you guys are looking at that. Okay. So Noah, you're up next. I think you're muted.
It says I'm gonna stop the other share screen. Do you want to continue? Yes. Okay. And this one. Ooh. Okay. So this is my poster. I was trying to go for like slandering all the other, I guess, parties. I mean, it worked. Like I sort of modeled it after stuff I've seen about QAnon. So I was like, it works for like a good percentage of Americans that believe in it. So I thought I might as well just keep working with what works. So
go negative.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's filled with like a bunch of half truths and like mostly made up lies, but I don't think anyone's really. I was going after the whole big lie thing, so that too.
Right.
I just made up like a really big lie and hope that people would run with it, pretty much.
Right. Now, here's my other question. What's the most famous big lie that Hitler told?
Wasn't it that,
Well, the Jews, that would be one.
yeah, it was like that
And what's the other one?
they were a lesser, oh, Aryans? Were Aryans the big
Well,
lie?
that's what I mean by the Jews, the
Oh.
superior race deal, right? Which was the idea that the Jews were a satanic group trafficking in children, basically, kind of thing. I mean, not. I mean, that was actually the protocol of the Elders of Zion specifically, but it was the idea that the Jews were the puppet masters, the globalists, around the world that controlled the banks and controlled Churchill in England and controlled Stalin in the Soviet Union and Roosevelt in America. That they were the puppet masters. They controlled. So there's that. Obviously, we all know about that big lie. But the other big lie was a thing called stabbed in the back.
Oh, that the Democrats stabbed Germany in the back. Was that it?
Yeah.
And
so wait, we'll circle back. But what was your? So anybody have any opinion about Noe's rather creative contribution here to going negative?
I think that it was smart to include some false lies or just to see if anybody would catch it, but also just because why not? I think that's awesome.
thanks.
So you're the red party.
Yes.
I think the one thing, I think you went so negative, Noe, that you forgot to put on that oh no, it's up at the top. But it was, I was like paying attention to the devil and the thugs and the enslavement, and I missed like the red party part. And also because you got Armageddon next to red party. So I didn't know that was, people don't read like me, we have a little trouble reading. So, it's like the big words are jumping up, but I still think it was, an excellent job.
Thank you.
But okay, so what's your choice of favorite?
I kind of liked Ethan's poster because it was similar to mine, but it was mostly like very polar. Like you could clearly see the message here that
okay,
it's
sure.
like a good versus. Oh, is it showing?
No, it's showing yours right now.
Oh, wait. Share screen. This one. I don't know. I just thought it was really cool, like a cool design, I guess, because you can see it's very easily like support the Green Party. The other two are bad. So I thought that was pretty.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, like you can clearly see like all the stuff that I guess the Green Party supports. So I thought that was smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was your choice.
Yeah.
Can you guys see? Can I ask anyone to while I'm doing this to count the votes? Are you guys able to do that?
Just tally it in notes, I guess.
Yeah. So Mackenzie, I guess you're next.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So this was my poster. My idea was just to rely heavy on emotion and to just do something that'll try to make someone feel something just right off the bat, because that's what my definition of propaganda was, just trying to influence people based off their own emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I had the outline of Oahu, and then I found a picture of children. I made it black and white, and I just put it in the island. Yeah.
Well, that's great. So, okay, so I think, all right, well, then what's your favorite? I love it.
I think, thank you. I voted for Ali's, I think, but when I put my poster up, there wasn't as many that are up now. So I think I need to revisit, because the one that, Yeah, because the one that Noe was showing was looking cool, and then the one that you showed earlier, not Libby's, but the one that looked like Rosie the Riveter kind of, and that was a red party. That one looked cool. So
Yeah, although that's not the first student of mine who's used that image. Although I don't know the other ones had used the Aloha shirt with it.
um,
But what was I going to say? Um, so Noe, can you hold off on Mackenzie's vote with the tally? You doing the tally?
Yeah.
Okay. And then that leaves Meg. Meg, are you with us?
Yeah.
So how are you going to weigh in here? Let's see yours, and can you share yours, or do you need me to do it, or how are you doing?
Oh, I can do it. Hold on.
Okay. You have such a lovely accent. So is that just a traditional British accent?
I don't think I think it's already influenced by Americans.
Is it British though? Are you British?
I just lived in Britain for a long time.
Okay.
How did she?
Oh wow, there's breaking news. Trump fires top US election security official who called November election secure despite president's claim. That's a little disturbing.
he's so annoying.
Well, let's
I'm
hope
still-
that all it is annoying.
True.
So this is yours. Oh, look at that. You guys are so good with the clip art and everything else. I would never be able to do all this.
So mine was the Red Party, and I kind of focused mainly on the slogan "Catching the Eye,"
Yeah.
and then the little bits of information at the bottom of the slogan is mainly to what do you call it? Influence or like persuade
Mhm.
people to enter it. I try not to what do you call it, diss or like try not to be rude on the other parties.
Yeah.
Um
So you
well,
try not to go negative.
yeah, I try not to go negative, more on the positive side. Well, it's kind of been where I'm saying I kind of highlighted shackles with green to say like the Green Party is kind of our shackles in this society. But
So to sum up, what would you say is effective propaganda?
the effective propaganda in my poster is more like a clean slogan that kind of shows this the persuasiveness or like the benefits of a party. I don't know if that kind of makes sense.
Say it again. Let me think about it.
So kind of shows like the clean effect of the clean and like benefits of a party and a slogan. The rest is kind of like decoration in the propaganda.
So like when they go low, we go high. Is that a little bit of it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what was your, what now, do you, that's your, do you think that that's the most effective kind, or is that just the kind that interested you for a poster?
It's mainly what interested me. Because when somebody, I'm not trying to say the other posters are wrong, but for me, when I look at a poster that's mainly going negative on other parties, I don't know, it feels fake. It's like obvious they're trying to mislead you.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's more on the positive side, and it's like showing the benefits, I don't know. It's like looking at a commercial, and it kind of persuades me to go for that party.
So you think it is more effective?
Yeah.
How many of you guys agree with her that stressing the positive is more effective?
I definitely think so, because I think if you go after the other parties, I think that just means that you don't really have as many ideas of your own, and that you're just trying to like market off of like everyone else's distaste towards the other party. So I think it's good to like add more of your own personal testimony, like what you would do about it. I mean, it's fine to say like, oh, so and so is doing this right now. Here's how I can improve it. So
Um, so you agree with it, but do you also think it's the most it would win in an election?
uh, right now, like I don't know. I don't know. Like for me personally, I just go off of like facts and all that versus just like targeting other people. So I don't know how it would do right now. I think it'd be kind of a mixture of both.
Right. How about you guys? Do you think going negative or going positive would be more effective? I guess Mackenzie knows.
I don't know. I'm kind of thinking about it. I can definitely see how emphasizing the positives of something would attract more people to it, especially when talking about advertisements, only because like that's the goal. But as far as like swaying the public to favor something, I feel like exposing the negatives of another side definitely brings people to favor one side. So I think that in an election, I think it works. I think that what won this election was a lot of Republicans voting blue, right? And so in that sense, you have to have some sort of negative on Trump's administration for them to go blue. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because Noe, let's get Noe's point of view and then say something.
I agree with Meg. Like she said, I think if it's too much slander, I think it obviously comes across as fake. But if there's like I don't know, I guess it just depends on like the amount of dirt you're probably trying to spread on someone, I guess. That makes sense. If something's too promising, then it also seems fake. But if something's like just straight lies, sometimes it works too. I guess it just depends on the lie.
How much does this question have to do with what you believe about human nature? About whether people are good or bad?
I can kind of see, I mean, it definitely has to do with human nature, but I think it's just like opinion.
Yeah, but okay, what if you were to decide that most people are maybe not so good, that they can't be trusted, that they're not very wise, or they're easily manipulated, which tactic do you think would be more effective? If you believe people are basically not very good.
If people aren't really educated, I think the slanders work better.
Right.
But our current society is, I think, is more on the educated side. So that's why Trump's rally of like fake news is working, kind of. So if we were to slander or put negatives on the other party, we shouldn't put it on the propaganda posters. We should do it more on like in the dark. We just like spread rumors and like, put make the other party show their negative side without us being like in the light telling the audience, telling the people that they're wrong, they're dirty, if that makes sense.
Say it again. The last.
No, it's just if we were to slander someone or
Yeah.
like put dirt on someone, we should like do it in the dark, by through like rumors and like little bits of information from like news organization.
Yeah.
shouldn't put it on our campaign or like posters. Otherwise, it just makes the party that's doing that look bad.
Mm-hmm. So you want to conceal your hand,
Yeah,
like through a useful idiot, maybe, or something.
yeah. They're a useful idiot. Throw the dirt and slander on the other party.
So you're more cynical than I thought, Meg.
I maybe.
Or at least more tactical that maybe he led on. How many of you guys see the recent election as evidence that people are basically good? Americans.
I think they're starting to change their tune morally in terms of who they would want in like office, but I think from a political standpoint also they just don't want that kind of person leading the office right now and being an example for like the younger generation and all, because we've definitely seen like an increase in like racism and people like not being like supportive, Karens, like all these different kinds of people that are basing their behaviors based off what they're told and the leadership that's being followed. So I think right now people are definitely starting to change like their tune morally. So I think that means that the country is getting better. Like,
Well, what do we know about
good
the
people.
facts of the last election, the outcome? How many people voted for Trump?
47%, 47.3, something like that.
Like 70 million people?
I don't know how much that is, but I think it's like 47.3.
Yeah, it's like 70 million people. How many voted for Biden?
50 something, 50.3.
But how many Americans?
72?
I don't know the millions. I just know the percent.
It was around 72 million.
Yeah.
But that was the night before he won. So I'm not sure.
So maybe it's between 73 and 75 million. So 70 million people voted for Trump, 73 or so million voted for Biden. Who did better in the Congress and the Senate, the Democrats or the Republicans?
Well, the Democrats won the Congress. Didn't the Republicans win the Senate?
Well, the Democrats lost votes in the Congress. They still have a slim majority, but it's much slimmer now than it was. So they lost in the Congress. And how'd they do in the Senate? You see what I'm saying, Mackenzie? They had they had a much better advantage before this election than they do now. They lost a bunch of seats. They weren't expecting that, but it was very, very bad for them in the Congress. And then in the Senate, does anyone know who did better?
The Republicans, right?
Pretty much, yeah. So Susan Collins is still there. I mean, the Democrats won in a couple places where they were very, very much expected to win, like Arizona, Colorado, but all the other races they lost. And now that there's, coming down to Georgia, the chances are that the Republicans will be able to hold on. So you had 70 million voters voting for Trump, 73 million or so voting for Biden, and the Democrats basically losing to the Republicans in the House and Senate. So what would you, based on that, what would you guys say that tells you about Americans and about from the election?
I think when it comes to Congress and Senate, people just want to stay loyal to their party. I don't think people take into consideration the true values of who they're voting for as far as when they do for president.
Is anyone surprised that after everything we've seen in the last 4 years, this is how it turned out? This many Americans are like, we want more of this?
I mean, watching the election was definitely disheartening and it was really scary. For the first couple of days, I remember staring at my phone and just looking at the election be so close, even though I don't know. I just thought I think a person. My preference is I think Trump is a horrible president, and I think he exemplifies horrible characteristics that are the reason for our country being in shambles right now.
Yeah.
And I think that seeing that so many people support that and support him was terrifying. And I think that that sets back our country so many years, especially after having Obama and president for 2 terms. Um, so I don't know. You asked about the election, so that was what I gathered.
Yeah. But you guys see how this relates to what we're talking about. Should people go negative or go positive, right? With their propaganda. A tough call, right? Our better angels say go positive. Our facts maybe point in a different direction, possibly, or certainly don't point strongly in one direction. Right? Maybe point the other. So Meg, you didn't share with us your favorite though, right?
No, mine was I think you showed it like a second ago.
Which one?
It's Abby's.
By the way, I like your like Wallace and Gromit red party.
Okay, thank you.
Is that what that's from? The fingers, the Wallace and Gromit?
No, I just I found it on the internet and thought it was the hands just looked like workers.
Yeah. It looks to me like a Wallace and Gromit. You know Wallace and Gromit?
No.
They're like a claymation cartoon from England. So
I was only there for like 6 years during my primary school years, so
well, I'm just you know, I'm just a fan of Wallace and Gromit. That's all I know about it. So that's your favorite right there?
yeah.
Okay.
I especially like the drawing or the picture of this.
Yeah.
Um,
Community-led, vote red. That's nice too. Mackenzie, how about you?
My favorite I said was Allie's. Oh, but I changed it. I changed it to that one, the Rosie the Riveter one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why's that?
I don't know. I like Rosie the Riveter, and I think they put a lot of effort in it. It looks like it was a drawing, so.
Right. Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. So Mackenzie, did you want to share yours?
I did.
When?
I went before Meg did.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't realize we got into everybody's. Okay,
No, you're no worries.
So has anyone managed to do a tally yet?
So I think Abby won, right? Because Meg and Kenzie voted for it was the Rosie the Riveter one, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think she won.
Okay. So Abby won?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. Let's pull up Abby's again. So let me ask you guys this. How honest was your card dealer here who assigned you to different parties? Do you think anybody had a built-in advantage over anybody else? Or to put this another way, who do you think usually wins this assignment?
The red?
The purple party.
Oh.
I think one of the issues is how many purple posters do we get? You did one. Wait, no, you didn't do. You did purple, Vincent? No? Who did
Green.
purple?
Luna did purple.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
And
Okay. So how about I share some slides with you and we can sort of put this into some perspective, okay? All this stuff about the red, the whole poster project, okay? So I'll talk a little bit and then I'll try and invite you guys in as much as I can, so it's just not me talking and you listening. But I think the context will hopefully help you guys understand what some of this is about. So, okay. Well, I thought this might be a good way to actually open up, which is, this is the entire little story that Walter Lippmann tells when at the beginning of his book, Public Opinion. I'm going to read it to you guys, and I want you all to maybe weigh in on what it means, okay? There's an island in the ocean where in 1914, a few Englishmen, Frenchmen, and Germans lived. No cables reach that island, and the British mail steamer comes but once in 60 days. In September, it had not yet come, and the islanders were still talking about the latest newspaper, which told about the approaching trial of Madame Caillot for the shooting of Gaston Calmet. It was therefore with more than usual eagerness that the whole colony assembled at the quay on a day in mid-September to hear from the captain what the verdict had been. They learned that for over 6 weeks now, those of them who were English and those of them who were French had been fighting on behalf of the sanctity of treaties against those of them who were Germans. For 6 strange weeks, they had acted as if they were friends, when in fact they were enemies. So you guys understand what they're talking about? That there was an island in the Mediterranean where these people got the news only once every 6 weeks. And in between when the 2 steamers arrived, World War I had broken out in Europe. And the people who were living together, who were French, German, and British, now found out that they were enemies. What does that tell you guys about the nature of media?
It has a polarizing effect on people.
Well, it certainly has that. They're mortal enemies now. What else does it? How deep or how big an impact does media have on human beings in that if looked at from that lens?
I would say a big impact due to like you having to know like what's going on in your surroundings as far as like the war and them living with each other and not even knowing that they were like enemies the whole time. So I feel like the media like serves a huge purpose as in like I guess giving or like giving people like information or whatnot, whatever, or being like a news source outlet.
Well, so like if you were, what would you guys imagine with a typical German in Germany in 1914? Do you think that when they discovered news about these French and British, they thought, oh, well, if we lived together on some island, they would just be friends? Or do you think a lot of Germans in 1914 just said, yep, the British and the French, those are our enemies without?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of people did that.
Yeah.
Just like even today's time, like hopped on Trump's bandwagon and start calling the coronavirus the Chinese virus.
Yeah. So it'd be fair to say that to a large extent, reality media shapes our reality. So Is that, you think that's why he tells that story? And notice the name of this first chapter, The World Outside and the Pictures in Our Heads. So what does he mean? What is the media in that analogy? Is the media the world outside, or is the media the pictures in our heads?
The pictures in our heads.
Right. So, okay. So this next slide, I'm just trying to get at something about, that I've thought about in terms of the whole modern era we're in. I mean, so much of this class, when we've talked about disinformation, propaganda, fake news, real news, it's revolved around Donald Trump. But I want to bring your minds back to a few years ago, before Trump was really dominating the scene, but still recent times, right? When there was this attack on Paris with all these gunmen. And it was these ISIS fighters. And what they had done was they had attached web cameras onto their heads. And they had gone and shot up all these places and massacred all these people with live video footage coming from their cameras that were attached to their foreheads. So you're seeing almost like a first-person video shooter game, them slaughtering people with their AK-47s or whatever as they run around a rock concert and a soccer stadium and these other places all over Paris. And then, does anyone know what they did with that video footage?
You talked about it last week, right? Like they saved the video footage until they attacked again and then broadcasted it as if there were 2 attacks, right?
Well, not as if there were 2, but that way they got a second terrorist attack almost in a way out of it. Because, after they waited for it to disappear from the headlines, they brought it back, so that they brought it back into the headlines with all these horrible images so that everybody relived it. So it was like they got to stage 2 media attacks out of one thing. So they got double bang for their buck. So now, why would I bring this up as these 2 things as opening slides to a discussion about propaganda and disinformation? What does it make you guys think?
Well, automatically, I just think that information is powerful. It has the power to manipulate, to deceive, but also to inform and to make people think that what they're reading is true, and to use that to base their conclusions. So yeah, information is powerful, basically.
Yeah, and what's your sense of how savvy or how clever these tactics are, Mackenzie?
I think that there has to be a lot of thinking behind it. I think that everything is done with an exact intention. So I honestly think that it's like everything that is being done with a fine-tooth comb. You know what I mean? Like they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. So like I'm trying to teach you guys some basics of news literacy, and I made an announcement earlier like, hey, everybody get your deconstruction workbook homework in or whatever, right? And this is what we're up against. You guys see what I'm saying? The sophistication of the techniques, the potential for power of this stuff. And, every time I try and teach a technique for trying to be more news literate or be more savvy about, what everybody reads or pays attention to, these folks are, how are we doing in the race for news literacy and for the race for truth versus lies and disinformation? Who's ahead?
I want to say Russia, but I also feel like the Russian people aren't informed. So the Russian government.
Uh-huh. So you feel like the Russians are mainly, what about Trump and all of them? Are they spreading disinformation? Like what, but I would say, okay, maybe rather than one act or another, are the disinformation artists ahead of those of us who are teaching the news literacy classes?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
So every time I teach this class, they're up to something new. they've got some new whole group of tactics. And it's like a constant war, right? Like one of the newest things to come up is now YouTube and Facebook and all of them are finally beginning to try and rein in some of the falsehoods or whatever that are going on in their sites. Have you guys been aware of their efforts to do that?
Yeah, wasn't there a meeting or something about it like within the last few days? Was in the Twitter guy?
I'm not sure. You mean hearings in Congress, maybe? I'm not sure.
Yeah, about how they fixed disinformation within this last election,
Uh-huh.
or
Well,
how they monitored it.
So now, have any of you guys heard of, I think it's called Palmer, which is these new platforms are coming up since the regular ones are excluding all these people. So they're developing these new online chat services for everything. So but let me keep going here. So, okay, here's a crucial distinction before we get any further. These are just some opening slides. And by the way, is my view of you guys blocking the screen when you're watching it so you can see the full slide? Okay. So propaganda and disinformation, right? So how many of you guys have had trouble distinguishing between the two? Can any of you guys, I think I asked this in a discussion, so maybe you guys can remember. Were you able to think of an example of what is propaganda, but is not disinformation, or vice versa? Meg, how about you? You got anything? I think Meg's.
Not at the moment.
Do you remember the New York Post one that I asked you guys to look at? Were you able to look at that? The New York Post stories on Hunter Biden?
Well, when did you give us that New York person?
The New York Post stuff during, like, what was it, 2 weeks ago when we were doing propaganda and disinformation? It was this. Here, let me pull it up. Hold on. Was this the one with the New York Post stuff? Yeah, these. You see my screen? This was week 10, so like last week. So Mackenzie, do you remember these?
Yeah, but I think my examples I think I might have, what I used for propaganda was what did I say? I said the Vietnam War, the way that the American government made the Vietnam War seem more romanticized than it was, I said was propaganda.
Uh-huh. And what's an example of disinformation?
What we were talking about something that week, and it was something that we were talking about disinformation. What was it? I don't remember exactly what it was, but
what about the Hunter Biden emails? Hunter Biden emails and the New York Post stories about them.
I don't think. I'm sorry.
Is that propaganda or is that disinformation?
Propaganda, because it came out during the same time as the election, so they're trying to deter voters that were voting for Biden to vote for Trump.
So wait, let's go back to the original definition though of propaganda versus disinformation. So propaganda is an effort to persuade people to a certain point of view. Disinformation is an effort to undermine confidence in any truth. So were you talking with us on Zoom last week? Do you remember our conversations about this?
No, I wasn't on Zoom last week.
Okay. Noe, do you remember this?
I remember Libby was talking about how the article, it seemed fake, but it still sort of made her feel like distrustful towards Biden, kind of, because his son's getting accused for all these things. So it's, I don't know, it's sort of warping your trust in Biden by, like, I don't know, not directly, but like indirectly.
So which one of these two do you think it fits more?
I think, I guess 2 for the Hunter Biden stuff, right?
The disinformation one. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at all the questions about the election.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I thought disinformation was just a blatant lie. Like, I thought disinformation was something that was a straight up lie exploited to become true. Is that not what it is?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about stabbed in the back, or we're talking about, the Jews being the puppet masters, isn't that also propaganda? Those are lies, right?
Yeah, but I thought I think I have a clear picture now. I was just
Well,
unsure.
Let's try another example, see how clear it is. So lots of people are saying that the election was a fraud and all the ballots were rigged, and the election was rigged and it's fake. And there were mail-in ballots found everywhere. What is that? Is that propaganda, or is it disinformation?
Disinformation, because that's not true.
Right. So there you go. I mean, well, neither one's true. Neither propaganda nor disinformation is true, right? But one is about undermining your confidence in any truth at all. Do you guys understand the logic? In other words, if we're trying to say that, like, if they can soften everybody up to where we no longer believe in any truth, then the people in power can just do what they want. So it has a similar effect in the end in terms of accomplishing a goal. Propaganda is about persuading people to a certain point of view, right? But disinformation is just about rendering them passive, saying, well, I don't know what I believe anymore, so I'm just going to get out of the way. Do you guys understand the logic of that?
Yeah.
Like, if I can't get you to vote for me, can I get you to stay home? And that way I don't have to worry about you. Right? Okay, so let me keep going. So this is all about disinformation. And what I'm showing is, the Russian hack where, again, can you guys understand why I would call this more disinformation than propaganda? What did we learn from all those thousands of emails that were dumped from last time in 2016? What did we learn about Hillary Clinton or the Democratic National Committee?
The whole QAnon thing?
No, this was 4 years before. We're talking about 2016. the Russians hacked into the Democratic National Committee and released all these emails, right? Does everybody remember this with WikiLeaks? Then there was the Russian investigation. So what did we learn that was so terrible about the Democratic National Committee? Does anyone know? So, I mean, maybe, you know, I should let you guys find out about it, but I would argue we didn't learn anything. But the smearing from releasing all these emails was enough to kind of make it a big deal. So again, it's that idea of disinformation. You know, if you can't persuade people or whatever, you just throw up enough dust, enough confusion that people don't know what to believe. Okay. And then these are the, I'm sorry, I should turn this on. And then these are the, these are the points that I put up on the video about disinformation, right? So, you know, look for the cracks in a society. So what are the main divisions? Create a lie, wrap the lie in a kernel of truth, and this idea of the useful idiot, so that people don't know really where it's coming from. And then when it comes out, you just hold the line about the stuff that's out there and keep pushing the point, and you play the long game. You figure you'll eventually wear people down over time, right? So this is all stuff about disinformation, tactics of disinformation. These are more principles of that. Rely on dissenting groups. So these dissenting groups will be your tools for, you know, for the useful idiots. So if you want to attack Hillary Clinton, maybe you get the Bernie Sanders people really angry, right? And, you know, and then it just kind of goes through. This is a slightly different playbook than what we just looked at. Destroy or ridicule the idea of truth. So again, that's undermining people's confidence in it. Headlines are more important than reality. So how often do we actually read the story versus like just seeing the headline on it? Pollute the information space. So just create a big cloud of dust, move the conversation, diversifying. And you guys remember last time, I think we talked about gaslighting, which is the idea of, again, making people think they're crazy, making them question their confidence. And it comes from that movie Gaslight, where the husband was doing that to the wife by turning up the gas lights late at night. So it seemed like the house was haunted. So she started thinking that she was crazy. Okay, and then this is the historical view looking back. And it's really, this is more about propaganda techniques. And the point I make is that we've talked about this before in the class, that there were really, you know, different information revolutions, right? There was in some of the news literacy stuff, we learned there was Gutenberg and Zuckerberg, meaning there was the invention of the printing press and then the whole digital world. But there's also the whole media revolution that came around with the introduction of mass communication, right? With the introduction of film and radio and newspapers. And you guys can imagine how dramatic that was in terms of, just like when the internet has come about, in terms of changing the way we consume media and the way that the truth is disseminated and is understood, and the role that people in power can play in distributing lies. So the other major revolution is the revolution that happened in the early 20th century with the advent of mass communication. And what happened during that period was the World War I. And so there's this idea that it was the first modern effort at, like it says here, systematic nationwide manipulation of collective passions. So the idea that people were able to use radio and film and, you know, massive distribution of newspapers to, like Walter Lippmann describes, to shape people's reality. Okay, and people immediately when they saw this new technology, the government leaders saw the potential for power, and also people in corporations saw that too. So at the same time that World War One happened, you also had really the birth of the public relations industry, which was so. Does anyone know what's the difference between public relations and propaganda? What might be a way to understand them? So I would say like public relations is like what companies do more often than not, whereas propaganda is more like the state or the government controlled. It's more political. Let's put it that way. So public relations, and public relations can also involve, nonprofit organizations, making sure the reputation of their organization is good.
Is that like advertising?
What?
Is that then just like advertising?
It's closely related to advertising, but public relations is more about how you get a message out about the reputation of your organization.
Oh, okay, I understand.
So like a lot of what BP is doing when British Petroleum has an ad up is that they're putting something out there so that British Petroleum has a good reputation. They're not really trying to sell you a tank of gas. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. And then all of this, though, this whole advent led Walter Lippmann at the time to say this during the period where he said, it would be better, basically what he's saying here is, well, I'll just read the quote and then I'll explain what it says. The regulation of the publishing business is a subtle and elusive matter, and only by an early and sympathetic effort to deal with great evils can the more sensible minds retain their control. If publishers and authors themselves do not face facts and attempt to deal with them, someday Congress, in a fit of temper, egged on by an outraged public, will operate on the press with an axe. For somehow the community must find a way of making the men who publish news accept responsibility for an honest effort not to misrepresent the facts. Now, he said that in 1919. How much would that apply to what's going on today? What do you guys think? Vincent, do you see any connection with today? So in other words, he's saying it would be better if companies regulated the information themselves. But if they won't, things may get to such a point that the Congress and the government will enact laws to make them deal with the stuff they publish. What does that apply to today?
Like as far as news and what can be put out?
Yeah. Maybe like the tech platforms, right? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Sorry, that was the other question. But yeah, like Facebook and like TikTok.
Yeah, so he said this 100 years ago. Well, what was he referring to?
Would it be like fake news?
Well, he was referring to radio and film and newspapers, which were all the new media of 1919 or 1920 when he first published this, right? But it was the same. You see what I'm saying? It's the same concerns about new technology, new media, new delivery system. Seeing how this had played out with the war and with propaganda with World War I. And, a feeling that we were being overrun by lies. And so he's saying, what's he saying here?
He says that the community must find a way to hold these people responsible for what they're saying and making sure that what they're saying is correct. And if not, then government will take over.
Right, they'll step in. Right? So best we protect the First Amendment, but if these companies aren't going to regulate themselves, if these media companies aren't going to step up, then the government is going to step up, right?
Okay. Isn't that what's happening though?
What?
Isn't that what's happening?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But this was written 100 years ago. That's my point.
Oh,
You see what I'm saying?
yeah.
My point is that the stuff that we're going through, if we look at it from 100 years ago, we can see it maybe with some more clarity about what's going on now, or at least some more perspective. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. It gives more depth into current situations.
Right. Because we sort of have the feeling like this has never happened before. This is like terrifying. What's going on? Right.
Yeah. And I mean, in a sense it is, especially with like, I feel like especially now we just have more at stake only because of like nuclear wars. But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, well, but then that history helps us understand it a little bit better, right? Because of the point you just made. It helps us have some perspective on what we need to focus on and what's most important about it now, because this actually is different, right? Nuclear war, we didn't have the threat of nuclear war in 1920. We didn't have the threat of climate change either, right? We weren't
Yeah.
always constantly flying around the world, and we didn't have a worldwide internet, right?
I agree.
So all of these things, it helps you distinguish what's the same as 100 years ago, but also maybe to focus on what's different and what some of the major concerns really are. Okay. So one of the reasons I'm bringing you through all this, or really the main reason, is because I would set this up to then say, how many of you guys have seen The Social Dilemma on Netflix?
I have.
So what I'm saying is think about this stuff and then maybe watch that film again and see if it changes your perspective on what they're saying in that documentary. So these slides, I'm just saying that as a result of all of this, there were all these concerns, like with the newspapers in Chicago, there was all this stuff going on that was out of control. And by the 19 teens and 1920s, this was the front page era when that became the term for all this shenanigans going on in the newspapers. Just like we have fake news today, there were all these crazy tactics that were going on in the teens with Chicago newspapers, right? And so there was a lot of concern and a lot of discussion in the 20s, just like there is today, about what's going on with the media. It's out of control. Nobody can trust it. Nobody can believe it. There were the tabloids coming out. This was the birth of, you guys know, newspaper tabloids. Like this one on the left is still what our tabloids today look like. The New York Daily News is still a New York City tabloid, right? So, when you look at the golden age of news, what I'm calling the golden age of media criticism, this is when all this stuff came to light. You had bestsellers about the press that were on Broadway, or bestsellers in the bookstores, and then Broadway hits about, the trouble with the press. You had journalists getting together and trying to come up with a code, which is when you have the whole idea of objectivity in journalism first come about. That term only really starts to get talked about by the 1920s. You have the birth of the public relations industry, and you have the birth of media studies, right? Like the field that I'm in right now. And so these are examples of that. And then these are examples of the organizations that came about within journalism to regulate journalism, the American Society of Newspaper Editors, and also the birth of journalism schools. Like I got my PhD from the Missouri School of Journalism, which in 1908 was the first journalism school. And then in terms of self-regulation in the media, more broadly, there was a huge scandal in the movie industry with this comedian named Fatty Arbuckle. And to make a long story short, he was accused of a rape with a bottle, a Coke bottle or whatever. He wasn't guilty of it really, but he was so smeared by the scandal that it destroyed his career, and it led to this huge call for like regulation of Hollywood movies and the idea that Hollywood was this is when Hollywood was first being born as a movie industry, and fears that celebrities were crazy and Hollywood was hopelessly corrupt. And then the Desmond Taylor murder was another scandal of Hollywood at the time. The Catholic Legion came in to insist on, the Catholic Legion of Decency boycott didn't happen to the 30s, but it was an insistence on, what finally ended up happening, which was by the mid 30s, 15 years later, the adoption of a strict Hollywood code that really had teeth in it. That was the kind of thing that you guys have probably heard of, like, crime does not pay. You had to have clear good guys and bad guys. You couldn't kind of glorify gangsters, and you couldn't show sex. People, if they're shown in bed, had to have like 1 foot on the floor, that kind of thing. I don't think I have the FCC in here, but the FCC was created for radio because there's only one broadcast spectrum to determine who could have a radio station and who couldn't. So that, because the government suddenly had a role, and there's only so many possible stations on the radio spectrum. So the government was in the role of saying who could and who couldn't. And so they ended up making these judgments about, what was good and bad media. So all this is going on at the same time. The public relations industry is being formed. And the thing to understand about that is that during World War I, when America had to create a propaganda effort against the enemy, they recruited a lot of people in business who knew about advertising and everything to create the propaganda for the government. And then when the war ended and they went back into industry, they brought that into the newly developing public relations industry and also into advertising. Okay, so Mackenzie, to your question, public relations and advertising overlaps quite a bit, and it both overlaps with propaganda, right? And a lot of this developed all at the same time for reasons that I think you guys can understand, right? So the final thing I just leave you guys with was that then there was the birth of media studies. And this is when people started trying to understand how propaganda worked and how it was effective. So the first kind of figure in this was Walter Lippmann, who was a journalist, but he really was important in terms of the whole birth of studying media because of the things that he wrote and the things that he did. But another was this guy, Harold Laswell, and he really was an academic, and he really was one of the important first people to study propaganda and also to put media studies on the map. And what he did was, so this is the debate. There was a debate. It wasn't really a debate. Like, these guys didn't travel around and debate people. But when people have looked back, they've said, well, Walter Lippmann looked at it a certain way, and this other famous writer of the time, John Dewey, looked at it in another way. Walter Lippmann felt like there were real limits to what people were able to understand and do. John Dewey just thought that it was a failure of education, but he believed that people were capable of understanding truth and all the rest. Walter Lippmann started to feel that because of the power of media, he wasn't sure our democracy would continue to work. Okay. And neither of them, by the way, totally saw the press as a solution. Notice that. They saw the press being knocked around in the middle of all this. But Laswell started looking at Hitler and Stalin and things like that, and he came up with his own theory. He ended up thinking that, like, first he said, well, do I think that people simply go with like how many of you guys have heard of what's it called? I'm forgetting what it's called now. The stimulus thing, where if you ding a bell and you show a dog a piece of meat, the dog will salivate. So you ding the bell and you show the meat, ding the bell and show the meat. What is that called? Anyway, that's behaviorism, right? And so the idea is you ding a bell, you show dogs the meat, they salivate. You ding the bell, you show the dog the meat, they salivate. Then you take the meat away and you ding the bell, they salivate anyway, right? And the question is, are people like this? Is Pavlov. This is like Pavlov's experiment, right? And the Pavlovian response is the dog drooling at the ringing of the bell, right? And so the question was, does media work this way? Can we literally just ding a bell with human beings and people have just a reaction that we train them to have? Is it really that effective? And he ultimately ended up saying, no, I don't think it is, but I do think that we can have a thing called master symbols, which is that we develop ideas of these different myths, and then we flash up a symbol, just like we ding a bell, and all of those stories we've been telling to people kind of flood into their brains. And if you guys remember, we started out talking about the big lie and the stabbed in the back myth. And so that's in a way, part of this idea that you feed these people these mythologies or whatever, and then you throw up the stimulus, and this is what you get, right? So, basically, the final thing what I'm going to end on here is that when World War II starts up, the United States is looking for some scholars, some media studies people who really know this stuff to be in charge of the propaganda effort, right? So they turn to the colleges, the universities, the professors, and they say, we've got millions of dollars that we're going to spend on our national propaganda effort for the war. And at this point, this group of scholars like Carl Hovland and Paul Lazarsfeld come in and they say, hey, we have these brand new scientific techniques for studying and measuring the effect of media on people. And what we've found is that during the 1930s, for all these years, these people, they shall remain nameless, but maybe people like Harold Laswell, all kind of shared an assumption that media was all powerful, that you could just do whatever. And we're going to call this a myth. And we're going to call it the magic bullet theory. These people believed in the magic bullet theory, okay? Or sometimes you'll hear this called the hypodermic needle theory. And that's the idea that basically people are like, that the media is like a joystick, and we're like being controlled by the media, that the media is all powerful. And what these scientists said was, all of these dumb professors that came before us, they all believed in the magic bullet theory. They all believed that media was all powerful and controlled everything. And that now we're much smarter than that. We have all these measurements to show what we're going to call limited effects. You guys see that final bullet point, limited effects theory? In other words, the media has limited power, limited effects. And our role is to measure the limits of that. And these were actually mostly pretty conservative professors, I would say. And they ended up, a lot of them, getting work after the war with corporations for advertising, to measure advertising and stuff. So I would argue there was a certain bias involved in the way they studied it. But think about that for a moment. Think about the magic bullet theory and what that's supposed to mean, and the limited effects and what that's supposed to mean. And so there's only 3 of you guys. So Noe, Vincent, Mackenzie, have all of you guys seen The Social Dilemma? Have any of you seen it? You've seen it, Mackenzie? No, you've seen it? Okay, so Vincent, so in some ways, I don't want to give away the game here, but I'm wondering if either of you guys see how magic bullet theory, limited effects theory might relate to what you remember from that movie. And if you were to watch it again, if you were to watch again, let's say we shut off right now, you turn that movie on right now, would you see it the same way that you saw it the other night when you watched it?
No, I don't think so. I think that there's definitely so much more, especially not just with this class, but I also took an ethnic studies class that talked a lot about social media in that movie too. So I think that I would definitely see it a lot differently now if I rewatched it. And I think I'm definitely going to.
And what do they talk? Who's the professor in that?
Professor Ruben Campos.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And and how would these two affect it for you?
Well, first of all, there's just a confirmation bias. Like it talks, the social dilemma talks a lot about confirmation bias, and ethnic studies has talked a lot about that too. So I think just reinstating that and also just knowing my prior knowledge on it, I think that that would, be cool to relook at that. But then also just to see how like the information is being controlled, what people are getting, not because of confirmation bias, but because of the algorithm. So.
Right, but would any of this make you more critical of the film or the way the film was made or what the film had to say?
I think it would make me look further into what they had to say, because honestly, like I watched it and I paid attention to it, but I think I definitely have to go back and watch it again just to fully understand like how they relate. Do you know what I mean?
How about you, Noe? Would this make you in any way more skeptical of the film?
I don't. I guess I just have to watch it again because I feel like I sort of just got the bare minimum out of the film, that social media is profiting off of us basically, but other than that, I wasn't really paying much attention to the film itself. So I have to watch it again.
Yeah. I mean, what is it, would they say in the film that social media controls us?
Kind of indirectly, the way the kids react when their phones are taken away, they're kind of going through withdrawals and stuff like that, and just the statistics about kids killing themselves nowadays because of like the need for forgot the word, like
Do they kind of say it controls us, or do they say it controls us?
I don't remember.
What would you say? What did you walk away? What impression did you walk away with, Mackenzie?
I think they say it controls us and we have to do something about it.
Yeah. In the 1930s, what do you think they were saying?
I think they're saying the same thing, that if we don't pay attention to what we're being told, then we're going to be taken over.
So is there a problem but both are saying this is new media and this is all of a sudden a new problem, right? Like in the 30s, they were saying this about radio and film and newspapers, right? TV wasn't there yet. But in the social dilemma, they're saying it about the internet and social media, right? So is there a problem that they're saying the exact same thing?
Information overload is the problem.
What?
Like information overload, right?
Well,
is that what you're?
I mean, I guess I'm just getting at. I mean, I guess I'm trying to help you guys figure this out without just preaching at you, but I'm getting at the idea that maybe there's got to be a little bit more nuance. If they're saying the exact same thing 100 years ago about the media then that they're saying now, there should be an acknowledgement, right? That we said these exact same things back when it was film and radio and television or whatever. So the idea that they're saying this is all new and what are we going to do, and it's totally taken over and now this has control, that's exactly what they said in the 1930s, right? So now what were the people with who came up with the idea of the magic bullet theory, what were they complaining about? Remember, they didn't believe in the magic bullet theory. They were saying those guys over there, they believe in this magic bullet theory. So what's the magic bullet theory again?
I don't think maybe I quite understood it the first time you said it.
The idea of the magic bullet theory is that the media is all powerful and it controls you completely. Okay. And what these guys were saying is that everybody, when they looked back at all the, now I don't know that, I don't think this is totally true about Laswell and all of them, but by 1940, they were saying when we look back at the 30s, the previous decade, at all the professors, they all basically shared in common a belief in the magic bullet theory. They all thought without question that media was all powerful and could just control our minds like a joystick, you know, controlling you like a robot or like in a video game, you know. Now the, you know, so they were saying we went and we studied it with these scientific techniques, quantitative methods, right? And we found that there are actually limited effects of media on people. Okay. So now how does that relate to the social dilemma in the movie?
What they were saying about how information was controlling them is exactly what they're saying about social media.
Yeah. And I don't know that it's fair to say that that's all that, you know, Harold Laswell or people like Walter Lippmann were saying. I don't know if you could just sum them up. It oversimplifies to say that they just thought the media was all powerful. So I think that when Carl Hovland and Paul Lazarsfeld accused those other people of believing in the magic bullet theory, I think they were after the government money so that they could take over the propaganda stuff. So they smeared everybody else, right? This is good, you know, propaganda, right? That you call everybody, oh, they all believed in the magic bullet theory. Even though in the 30s, there weren't people walking around talking about a magic bullet theory. That's what these guys came up with later to smear them. They said, oh, they all believed in this magic bullet theory. You guys see what I'm saying? Are you confused, Noe? So it's 1940, 1941. The government has all this money. They're like, we'll go give all this money to whichever are the best professors to manage our media propaganda machine for the war. We've got to win the war against Hitler. We need experts to do it. So then these experts step up and they say, you don't want to believe those other experts, so-called experts, because those other experts believe in the magic bullet theory. We don't. Are you following me? So they use this idea of the magic bullet theory to smear all these people before. But I'm saying, if you think about their point about the magic bullet theory, what's the point again? What's the theory hold, supposedly?
That the media controls us like joysticks.
Yeah, if you think about that and you think about what the guys are saying in The Social Dilemma, do you see a connection? You see my point? Now, do you think I'm arguing that the media is weak and that it doesn't control us?
No.
No.
I think that you're arguing for it. I think that you're saying that it does in some way control reality.
Right. And I'm saying that in 100 years, in terms of understanding this, maybe we need to move forward into examining, which, I mean, I think that people in my field are doing. I just don't think it showed up on Netflix the other day. Right? So I'm saying what we need to figure out is how powerful, how much, in what ways, all of these questions. So just saying the media controls us is really nothing new, and I'm not sure it's really that helpful.
I understand what you're saying now. So like, all right, you're saying it, but what are we going to do about it, kind of thing?
Well, I mean, let's elevate, if we're talking about media, let's elevate our discussion of it to a higher level than this. Like just banging the drum and saying, oh, wow, we have social media, we should be really, really scared, they're controlling our minds, is not enough. Now, does that all that movie does? No, it doesn't, you know? But that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm just trying to give you guys a way to think about that film in watching it again. Maybe. Okay. Okay. So I think at this point we should call it a day. Did you guys have any questions? Is there anything about this you can think of that you don't understand? If I was to do let's say I was not to be very helpful, right? And I was just to put up a discussion forum. So your assignment for next week is watch The Social Dilemma. Now that you've seen my slides and my, talk about propaganda and disinformation, give a critique of this movie. What would you be confused about anything about it, or is it pretty clear to you, Vincent? You get what I'm saying? Okay. I should have come up with like a little slide with quick questions. Oh, you guys remember this one? So I didn't talk about this, but War of the Worlds. So War of the Worlds, Noe, do you remember it from last week when we talked about it?
Was it the I forgot his name, but the
Orson
alien
Welles?
thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So you want to explain it to them? Can you?
Yeah, I mean it was basically just this radio broadcast of this fake alien invasion story that wasn't supposed to be taken seriously, but supposedly caused the panic because it was pretty realistic, right?
Yeah, they did the War of the Worlds. You guys know the story War of the Worlds? You ever see the movie with Tom Cruise or anything? So War of the Worlds, these Martians invade, they blow the crap out of everything, they take over. Your full-on Martian invasion story. That's what it is. It's like you're full on, the Martians have landed, the aliens have landed, And they made a radio play out of it, Orson Welles did, and he made it in the form of like a breaking news broadcast. So people were turning on their radio and not realizing that they were listening to a radio play. What they thought they were hearing was a live news broadcast of a Martian invasion. And there's an argument, the story that's been told for 70 years is that this set off a massive panic where millions of Americans suddenly became convinced that we were being invaded by Martians, and all kinds of chaos ensued. Now scholars have gone back and said, whoa, that may have made headlines the next morning that there was this whole Martian panic that happened. But when we really look at the information, like who had been tuning in and what really happened and where the information is coming from in those initial stories about the massive panic, we find that made a good story, that Orson Welles' broadcast had created horror across America, but that actually that may not have really happened. So you've got one hoax rolled in on another hoax in a way, right? You've got the alien invasion hoax, and then you've got the fact that for 70 years we believed that this set off a massive panic when maybe it really didn't. But the point that people bring this up when they're talking about the magic bullet theory and media in the 30s is, what do you guys see as the connection? Let's say we take the story as it is. Orson Welles does this news broadcast. People are running up and down their neighborhoods screaming with their hair on fire that there's been a Martian invasion. How does that apply to what we've been talking about today?
It shows how controlled we are by like our reaction, our like such a volatile reaction to a fake news broadcast.
Yeah, by the media, right?
Yeah.
It shows the power of the media to leaders and to the public in 1938. This story was a story about the incredible power of the radio and the media, right? So, that's important. And then this is stuff about the big lie. We talked about that. So I think we're pretty much done. All right. Do you guys have any questions? Mackenzie, you and I are going to hang out for a minute and do some advising, right?
I thought that was tomorrow.
Oh, did we set that up? Okay, good. Okay. You got the invitation and everything, so,
Yes, sir.
okay. All right, you guys, is everybody clear about, you guys gonna look over your missing work? Did you guys fill out your deconstruction workbooks? You did? You turned it in, Mackenzie? Vincent, do you need to do that? Okay, work on that. Vincent, did you want to hang out and talk to me now when the Zoom's over?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Noe, do you have any questions? Are you clear? You got to do the disinformation one, right? Is there anything else you're not caught up on? You had said you hadn't done the Checkology reporter thing about practicing quality journalism, but it looks like you did complete it.
Oh, I just didn't send in the screenshot of the finished thing, I think.
Well, that was only if you did the BBC one.
Oh,
That one I can't track on Checkology. But
okay.
you got all that done. Are you missing anything else?
I think just like the quiz, I think, for the propaganda. I didn't do that one.
Okay, well then email me if I have to open it up again, okay?
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Bye.
All right.
Okay. I'm gonna stop recording.